Hadirin mengenai ya ke PGI report kepala pelat dah Union Ministry of Education ngi baka jela meglaya jungi kapoy kedan ke beretam ane ke bakado tam ha bede barka tanat puli ke puthi ila manong baka meglaya ke jongi kare ke wen ke jela ke ba sadien tam ha ka puli ke puthi ada nujoru bat kini ki jela hangne North East India ibakan tup ya ke Assam Manipur baki Mizoram kiwi kami kelaya ke dei gawe na ke cela ke bah hapo tam kat kum ke PGI report te ki bon ru ki pajba ki bala persya lade ki bala peni ya kata ka opinion ke jongki ban ong ba ke jela meglaya bat ke state government hi kam simle kam la ban le hadu kini kiski ha bai dei kum no ban kentil ya ke education hani jela walangi na isibon ba ki initiative lani ki sienjam ki baka government classroom ban wanra ban kentil ya ka education hani jela hanrai hakani ke report pat kapau ta tentu te nakaliang jo education minister ru ula ban khia halor kene bo long ba ka jingfil hi ka education hang ne jela me khle ka dei namar ba kam chimdan ka progress lane ka development nadu ki art house ne manchwa bat menta ka sarkar kadang yale kumno ban kentil ka tat hadu kini kisni ba kadang yale kumno ban kentil lane kumno ban penwandur biang ya ka education tementa si banyak stu khambha banyak kran khambanya halor kene ini akan dua buat Professor David Imle is a Professor David Imle ide advisor namta ka State Education Commission te kan bahas sikat dei ya banyos ngau nai Sir Professor David Imle ke ba idon man ong halor kan ka PGI report but let's say ke ba kumki advisor kidon ban ajingmut syaka government hakabai dei ban kentil ya ka education hang ne mentang adon ba Sir Professor David Imle kumban sipin itu kendian Sir Professor David Imle lakai ha motopu sip sagar Assam ha usnam khat kendai spa asan pelai bai la pendep ya school na Dr. Graham's home na usnam khat kendai spa asan pupra hadu khat kendai spa nyopo but ila pendep ya BA in history haka khat kendai spa nyop saw na St. Edmunds College but ka MA haka khat kendai spa nyopun rio ka MPhil khat kendai spa prapo but ka PhD khat kendai spa prapsan na new but sir ila long dukum lecturer trong ka St. Edmunds College haka snam khat kendai spa nyop kendai penkut but ila join hanehu khat kendai spa nyop kendai ban long ku HOD dean controller of examination registrar and pro vice chancellor wat hadin kata la ila yo ya ka lat ban long ru ku vice chancellor jong ka Rajiv Gandhi University ha Arunachal Pradesh nam arza khatway but la hadin kata so join part bat ka UPSC house nam arza khatpra ban serve como chairman nadu January ka arza khatnyo hadu arza khatpra te la hong bai sai la dan chibon ba ke jingke ba bede education hi wat hadien jong tu ke PGI report ki ban i wa ka meglaya kala hiar ba ka puli puthi ngene kran khindiat bisa ngene kali khindiat ke jingkeli ka bede bat ka education ka ba kalong menta bat ka education ka ba isa ihe isan ha ke por ki ba idang puli ku be chibon sa for example I have few questions which it's all based on the education department of Meghalaya, and since you're being the...
I'll try and give a fair expression to the questions that you give them.
Since we've seen the PTI report painting a troubling picture of Meghalaya's education system, they were saying that there's a low learning outcome and the teachers, lack of teachers, and as well as underfunded schools. As someone deeply involved in education, do you agree with this assessment?
Well, your statistics show that large Meghalaya has any number of schools and any number of teachers, so there doesn't seem to be a lack of teachers. What there is a lack of teachers are in the science subjects and in mathematics. This is a very serious concern for the state and for the student community. But I think the other subjects are well staffed, and the government is under a process of getting more teachers trained in this subject content.
So, but as of now, we see that there's a lot of lacking on teachers training. Most teachers in rural area are not properly trained, are not properly equipped with right training for giving it to the student as well. So
Well,
now
there
they're
are
starting to do.
yes, you're right. They're starting to do it, and I think the results of the training selection has been announced only the other day. But the government is in the process of getting more number of teachers trained in the through the diets and other training institutes. And I'm sure that in the years to come, the PGI score will improve, which is a much desired uh, achievement that government of Meghalaya would be hopeful it would achieve.
Well, what's happening, sir? Like 20 years back, why wasn't there no teachers training?
Well,
Just
everything
the
has a process of development. In those days, there were very few training institutes. Usually, the graduate studies were featured on arts, science, and commerce. There was very little of management. And if Shillong was the hub of education at that time, it was only in very set colleges and institutions. It did not percolate into the rural areas. But today, have a look at the education scenario, and you would see that it has spread across the state of the private universities, the establishment of colleges, numerous colleges in far-flung areas. And I trust that the achievements of this with the new national education policy will bring the PGI score to the desired training institutes, arts, science, and commerce. There was very little of management.
sir, I want to question one thing also. After the pass percentage that we've succeeded in the last SSIC examination, Meghalaya achieved 87 pass percentage due to the CM impact. And few critics have been saying that the government is just focusing on too much on numbers and pass percentage, whereas in reality, how much is that a real progress, or is it just inflated reporting?
No, you may have your opinion as a journalist, but if the students are happy with their results, I think that is an achievement that has to be credited to the government. And we must rejoice that the number of students who have got through the higher secondary is increased this year. Let us wait till next year and then make a better assessment.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so since you've served as Nehu and headed as you've served in Nehu and as well as Rajiv Gandhi University, how would you compare the quality of higher education in Meghalaya today versus 2 decades ago?
Meghalaya has a well set higher education scenario, but more specialized subjects need to be brought, which are coming in. Medicine, management has come in, and other programs are getting in place. And I think in years to come, we will see Meghalaya being able to achieve a higher student intake, and it should be a happy scenario. What is of concern to many of us in education is that many of our students have to leave Shillong for further studies elsewhere, and therefore the government and educationists should try and put up institutions in the state that would retain our students over here, and at the same time attract students from other states to the Northeast. To be too insular in our student community is limiting, and therefore we need students. I remember Nehu in the early 70s. It reflected the Northeast and it reflected much of India, so that we had a very mixed group of students in the university. Now that scenario is not the same as it was because of various issues.
Also, we see in Shillong, private schools are more thriving, while government schools may struggle. What is your take on that?
Well, government initiatives uh, are aplenty, and I think they must put in infrastructure and a process of getting the schools going forward. But the private initiative is very often a question of profit. If you look at the fees that they charge, they are very much higher than the government schools. But the government has to be appreciated. Sometimes we are too critical of government policies, and I think we have to put call a spade, in the sense that if there are shortcomings, we criticize and them, but wherever they have done well, to also appreciate the government's efforts.
Being in the commission itself, or is there any internal assessment or findings that have been shared that haven't made public as of now?
It is not proper for me at this stage to give any report on the functioning of the commission. We are working on submitting our report, and it would be given to the government in a matter of time. And I think it would be with the government to make an appreciative assessment of the report that we've given. So let us wait till such time that the report is submitted.
Since Meghalaya, the demographic dividend is like youth make up a large portion of the population. How can education be better aligned with employability and skill development?
Skill development has come in very recently, and it has broadened into very many forms of skill development. You can see that our students over here are doing fairly well in management, in catering, in hospitality. That's one very big achievement they've done. Our young men and women are doing very well as nurses and people in the trained in the paramedical line. And I think skill development has taken off with a big focus, and I think it should continue to be encouraged to give employment to our young people. These days, going for a degree is in question because of the employability, and I think the new national education policy has taken steps to give other skills within the degree courses that the students are undertaking.
So let's say if a student from a rural area come to you and ask, what's the point of education if there's no job? What will be your direct answer to that?
Well, they should have answers also. Coming to me as a teacher, I teach, and my job is to convey the significance of history as a historian. We are living in the present, which is a very difficult time, and a person from the rural area may be of concern that there is not sufficient schools and colleges in their own area. But to clog up Shillong with too many institutions is also another problem.
Most students now feel like going to school is not necessary anymore because there's no jobs. As well.
No, they should not have that impression. They should be prepared to compete. They should be prepared to work hard, and if not get employment over here, find employment in this great land of ours anywhere. And I'm very happy that very many of our students, I look around and I find any number of our young people moving out and making themselves happy and making themselves useful citizens in other states. Many of them learn the languages, many of them adjust with the culture and the climate and the food, and as also are happy with the dignity that they are working.
What about the less fortunate who cannot afford to go outside or maybe get a better education also?
Well, that's not for me to answer at this stage. I'm sure the parental support and societal support should do well to give. Just yesterday, I had 2 students coming to see me in the evening. They had to write essays on lesser known freedom fighters, and I opened my library to them. They came without any written or telephonic conversation with me, and they just popped into my place last evening, and I welcomed them and I sat with them for 1.5 hours. And it was a delight working with the young people. This is not to say that I'm going to invite everybody to my home, because I do need my own time. But it was a joy meeting young people to come over, and I would be able to answer some of their questions and queries and provide material, reading material for them.
So before we end this program, sir, I have one more question. Last question is, what is your message to policymakers, teachers and parents who are tired of lip service and want to see the real change in education?
Well, education is undergoing a process of change, and it's always undergoing a process of change, and we have to see that in time steps are taken to put in place a good education system. We have to learn from the past, we have to learn from other states, and hope that the government of Meghalaya, as also private initiative, puts together an education policy as also implementation that would be to the best use of the young people and provide them not only an opportunity for employment but also make them better citizens of this great land of ours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Kemudian pois kabakut tong kini kacing iklan hangit layo katu kapnya teli kisembok perhat naisa hari apa which boleh pergi bapak yang hari video yang saya sampai